It used to be you could just turn on evening news and boom, same face year after year. But lately, it seems like all these anchors are just leaving. So today, we are going to do a deep dive into why these big names are leaving network news and what it might mean for how we get the news.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a pattern we're seeing here. I mean, Lester Holt leaving NBC Nightly News, Chuck Todd, he stepped down from Meet the Press, even Hoda Kotb and Norah O'Donnell gone from their anchor roles.
Yeah, it's a long list. Makes you wonder what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at this article called From Lester Holt to Norah O'Donnell, Why Are Anchors Leaving the News Desk?
Yeah. And one of the things it points to is viewers, they just don't trust the news as much anymore.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, think about the past few years. There's all this talk about fake news, and people, they just don't trust the media as much as they used to. So it makes you wonder, if they're already skeptical, how are they going to trust a new face? That's a good point. The article, it kind of says that it's hard for new anchors. They just can't get the same level of, credibility, authority like the anchors before them had.
Absolutely. And it's not just that. The whole media world is changing, right? You've got the internet, social media, everything's different.
So how does that play into this whole anchor exodus thing?
Well, it used to be that everyone, they got their news from like 3 networks. But now it's like you get news from Twitter, then you're listening to a podcast, then maybe see a headline on your, smartwatch or
It's not
whatnot.
that people are like abandoning TV news.
No, no, it's more like there's just so many more ways to get it now. So it's harder for any news source, even with a big anchor, to, have that same impact. Think about it. How many different places do you get news from? In a day, even.
Oh, I don't even know. It's too many to count. But if viewers are scattered like that, does that mean like the idea of an anchor, a trusted guide, is that not as important anymore?
That's the big question, isn't it? Like, take Craig Melvin. He replaced Hoda Kotb on the Today Show. I mean, he's great, talented journalist. But will he be a household name? Like some of those, the older anchors? It's tough.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The article mentions that some of these anchors, they're not leaving news. They're just changing jobs.
Oh, absolutely. Like Norah O'Donnell, she's going to be a correspondent for CBS, focusing on longer reports.
So maybe they just don't want to do the nightly news grind anymore. Maybe they want to like go deeper into stories.
Yeah, that could be it. It's not about being famous. Maybe they just want to do, good journalism.
Okay, so we've got trust declining, a million ways to get the news, and now the anchors themselves, maybe they want something different too.
Yeah.
So what does this mean for the future of network news? Is there even still a place for these, the big name anchors?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about next. We'll see if these changes, are they a sign of decline, or are we just seeing a new way to, deliver and consume news?
Okay, so we've been talking about the anchors, like why they're leaving. But what about us, the viewers? What does it mean for us if these anchors, if they're gone?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the article, it kind of hints at some big changes. For a long time, we've relied on these anchors, right? They guide us through the news, they help us make sense of the world.
I remember when I was a kid, watching the news with my family. It really felt like the anchor was, I don't know, part of the family almost. You could like depend on them.
Yeah, totally. And the article, it mentions Walter Cronkite. He was like the most trusted man in America, right? Vietnam War, Watergate, all that, he reported on it. And a lot of people, he was like their main source of news.
But now it's like everyone's got a phone, social media, everything. You think it's even possible to have someone like that anymore?
Yeah.
One person everyone trusts for the news?
It's hard to say. I mean, now you get a news alert on your phone, like before the anchor even says anything.
And then you've got everyone on social media talking about it, giving their opinions, sometimes even before we know all the facts.
Exactly. It's so different from like back in Cronkite's day. Back then, people got their news from, a few sources they trusted. Now it's just bam, 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 information overload all the time.
So maybe this is a good thing. Since anchors aren't as important, maybe this forces us to be like smarter about the news.
That's interesting. Maybe we can't just rely on one person anymore, so we have to think for ourselves, look at different sources, different opinions, and then decide what we think.
So we all need our own Cronkite filter, basically, to like figure out what's real and what's fake.
Yeah, exactly. That's so important now. The article even talks about how some networks, they're changing things up, moving away from just having one anchor.
Oh, really? How are they doing that?
Like CBS, they got rid of Norah O'Donnell, and now they've got two anchors, Maurice Dubois and John Dickerson. And they're using more correspondents, more people reporting from out in the field.
So it's less about one person
Yeah.
and more about showing us different viewpoints.
Exactly. It's kind of like how we get news now, right?
Uh-huh.
From everywhere.
But that's another problem, isn't it? If we don't have one anchor to trust, how do we know what to believe? With so much information out there, how do we decide what's real?
Yeah, that's the big question. It's like we all have to be our own, news directors now.
So how do we do that? How do we get good at figuring out what to trust? It feels important now more than ever to understand what's going on and make good decisions.
Yeah, it really feels like, I don't know, a turning point, not just for TV news, but like for everything. How we get information, it's all changing.
Definitely, but I think this article, it gives us some good ways to think about it. Like one thing it says is we got to be more active when we're, getting our news.
Okay, so what does that even mean? Being more active.
Well, instead of just, reading whatever pops up,
Yeah.
we could choose where we get our news from. Think about the sources you actually trust.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a specific news organization or a journalist you like, or even, a friend who always shares interesting stuff.
So it's like being more picky about who we listen to. Yeah, exactly. And then, checking things out. Like if you see a headline and it's like, whoa, really? Or maybe it just like confirms what you already think. You got, look into it, see if other places are reporting the same thing. What's the context, all that.
So we all got to be fact checkers now.
Kinda, yeah. But it doesn't have to be hard. Just start by, asking yourself, is this true? Look for proof, look at different opinions, that kind of thing.
Like those Cronkite filters we were talking about. Right. Don't just believe everything you see.
Exactly, exactly. It's about being engaged, not just informed, It's
Yeah.
not enough to just like know a lot of stuff. You got to think about it, use your brain, make good decisions.
That's a good point. It feels like this whole deep dive, it's really shown us how much things are changing for news and for us too.
Yeah, and some people might see this and think, "Oh, it's bad, things are falling apart." But I think it's also like an opportunity. Maybe this whole, everyone getting news from everywhere, maybe it's making us smarter. We got to think for ourselves more.
So instead of missing the old days with Cronkite and all that,
Yeah.
we got to learn how to handle all this new stuff. Be better at getting the news.
Yeah, I think so. It's not something that just happens to us. We all make choices. We decide what we read, what we believe, and that shapes how news works.
That's a good way to put it. This has been, I don't know, it's given me a lot to think about. Hopefully everyone listening feels the same way.
Yeah, definitely.
So until next time, everyone stay curious,
Yeah.
stay engaged, and keep those Cronkite filters working.